Here. That gets it. Hi there. All right. Welcome to this meeting of the Warren Astronomical Society. I'm your president, Bob Tremblay. We are live here at Macomb Community College, South Campus. Speaking of presidents, I was talking with our first vice president here, and we're going to have elections coming up in November, and I am being term limited out as president, and he is being term limited out as first vice president, and I'm pretty sure some of our other officers are being term limited out. So if you're thinking about being an officer of the WASP, we'd love to have you, and it's time to start thinking about it now because I'm going to be poking some people. But anyway, so do we have any first-time attendees tonight? No? Okay, well then I don't need to tell you about the observatory, but we do have an observatory.
I am, sir.
But you are? Okay, well I will tell you about that then. Hi, how'd you hear about us? Let me guess, meetup, right?
Yes.
Awesome. That thing sure paid off. So we have an observatory at Walcott Mill Metro Park. That's at 29 Mile Road between North and Romeo Plank. We do a star party every fourth Saturday of the month, dark 30, and we observe a lot of things. We've had a lot of people there, and we also do other events there like Perseids, and sometimes the Metro Park has us do things. But we're there every fourth Saturday. And we meet at Cranbrook on the first Monday of the month, both in person and live. And so that's it. And you can watch our previous meetings on YouTube. So if you're new, you can't join here because our guy is there, but you can go online and join if you want. If members want a badge, you can contact us and we will get you that. Our talk tonight is by Ken Bertin, member Ken Bertin. He's going to be talking about Carl Sagan. So I'm kind of pumped about that. So as tradition, we like to go down the ranks and do a roll call. I'm Bob Tremblay, president.
Dale Parton, first vice president. David Bransky, treasurer.
Tina Wong, card-carrying member.
Sonny Spilos. Angela Piedonado. Bob Bruno. Jim Wallace.
Charles Strackmine, secretary.
Mark Edzer. Jeff McLeod, outreach.
Okay, hi there. And online, we got David Levy. We've got Heather, I can't pronounce your last name, Gruda, Zoe Capaldi, Michael Meyer. I can't pronounce that. I can't pronounce some of these names. I'm sorry. But hi guys, hi online. Welcome to our meeting. So if you want to get a WASP t-shirt or other WASP wearables, you can check our very fine newsletter and see what's available there. Our annual picnic is going to be Saturday, August 23rd at the same place our observatory is. We are a member of the Great Lakes Association of Astronomy Clubs. This is a group of astronomy clubs in southeastern Michigan, the DNR, Cranbrook, Michigan Science Center, and we all get together and we put on the Astronomy at the Beach event. And meetings are the second Tuesday of each month, so a couple days ago. And we could use another WASP member to be on there. Jeff and I have been in attendance, but they'd like another one from all the clubs. So Astronomy at the Beach this year is September 26th and 27th at Island Lake State Park. We're back at that location. If you're interested in helping us, we could use your help. Brother Guy Consolmagno is going to be the speaker this year, and he's going to be in town that weekend. So you're probably getting a chance to meet him, which is going to be pretty cool. So, speaking of the Vatican Observatory Foundation, they do a full moon meetup every full moon, and they have a guest. And this month, well, we had trouble finding somebody, so they had me, and I was the guest. And I've shamelessly plugged the NASA Solar System Ambassador Program, the NASA Night Sky Network, the Great Lakes Association of Astronomy Club, and the Warren Astronomical Society, and how many cool astronomers Michigan has, and how lucky we are. So I sent an email to a couple of the GLAC board today because I was looking for a T-shirt to wear tonight, and I found my Great Lakes Stargaze T-shirt. I'm like, why don't we have Astronomy at the Beach T-shirts? So I sent that off to them. So I want an Astronomy at the Beach t-shirt this year. So how many of you would get one of those if they had those? Yeah, the hands go up. So, okay. Yeah, I would definitely give it. Okay, yeah, make 5. So I will be poking those guys. I will I will be having one regardless. So if I have to make it myself. So Dale, what's up with you? Again, I know what he's gonna say.
Yes, you do. Well, everyone, I need speakers. Did I say I need speakers? I need speakers. The earliest opening is in July. And there are openings later on after that. July is coming up. I need a speaker, right? The other thing I would say is at our next meeting at Cranbrook, Mike O'Dowd will, where's Mike? I thought, yeah. Mike will speak on the Dragonfly mission to Titan. And the long presentation will be given by Dr. Brian Odom. He will speak on the astrophotography decathlon. So astrophotography. A month from now, we'll be back here at Macomb, and our own Bob Berta will be speaking on my 70-year journey in the astrophotography hobby, a lighthearted tale of chasing my dreams and confronting reality. Ooh.
This from the guy that's got the picture of him with the giant telescope, and I'm like, yeah, that's outside of my range of reality.
So I need speakers, you guys. Okay, thanks.
All right. God, I love this club. All right. So, Riyadh, are you online? You are not online. So, Riyadh is our observatory chair, and he very enthusiastically will show you double stars and anything you want to look at in the sky. David, Treasury, what is going on with Treasury?
Okay, so Treasury, we've got $22,955 in a checking account. On our credit card, we had about $31.40. This was to send some documents over to PayPal to get it to be in my ownership as opposed to a previous board members. So that got done, that got accomplished. And the credit card got paid for, and that's it.
All right. Oh yeah, board meeting, GLAC board meeting. We got to get them $400, $500. So
No.
they'll take whatever we can get them. Hey, we are we've actually got our 501c3, so we can actually accept matching donations now and all that kind of stuff. And I believe Tim Campbell is actually working on that. So that is cool. Charlie,
Yes.
what is going on? Charlie Strackbein is our secretary, who at our last meeting at Cranbrook, he submitted a whole bunch of really cool designs for a warming room and that kind of stuff for our observatory, which I would love to see. Good evening, I'm Charlie Strackbein, and I'm the secretary of our organization here. And later, as Bob had mentioned, a little bit later, we're going to look for an update on the observatory committee. And we want to note that we have stickers available at the meetings for $1 each or 5 for $7. They're great for anywhere in your house, your refrigerator, the back of your computer, etc. Name tags are also here. If you're in person, you can see me in the back. We also have a nice plastic name tag holder for you. And if you have a space rock, you can attach that too. So awesome. Wow, I got a space rock. I have a space rock. Oh, I have a space rock. Part of the meteor. A keychain at home. I got to put that on my current keychain here. Right. All right. Right. Well, thank you, everybody. And we'll have a little bit more on the observatory committee update over there following and the most work that's been done on it. Well, I'll save that for later. All right. All right. Thank you. Outreach. What is on? Jeff McLeod, our outreach officer. We getting any requests from Cranbrook yet or anybody?
No. Shall I have?
I don't know. We did scout stuff with them like crazy and it just stopped.
We did something. I can't remember what it was.
Those freezing events.
No. Like in the last month, we had an event. What am I forgetting?
Who did it?
I don't know. Tina? Are we somewhere? We did?
Well, the only two I remember were the events where I froze
Ah, Belle Isle, that's the one.
froze my toes off.
Saves the day.
As usual, Mark doing my job for me. I don't really have anything on the books, but Tina is already poking me about the picnic. So, picnic people, we're gonna go ham this year. We got tongs
10 of them.
already.
Shrimp?
No,
Oh.
gonna be like 90 degrees.
Stuff.
So, in tradition of your outreach coordinator telling you about events after they happen, if you're not familiar, there is a place in Detroit that puts on a rogue Star Wars party. Don't tell Gary Ross. Once a year, it's called Space Dive. It is unlicensed. They have been shut down in the past. But man, like the people that put it on, they fill like 6 or 7 semi trailers of like sets that they put into this bar, and you are in the cantina. So where's your camera? It's probably gonna get rid of it's gonna blur it.
Sure it is.
Technology. So that's
Yeah, so that's
I got to meet R2D2. I mean, that is R2D2.
congratulations.
So next year, it's it's always the weekend of May the 4th, right?
At the Tangent Gallery.
Tangent Gallery, yep. So I'll try to be better at letting you know. However, it's a late night party, little debaucherous, and it is kind of a costume required event. So you're gonna have like when I went, I was Temu Han Solo. We phoned it in, but we went to, there's a family day, so if you want to go in the day, it's cheaper. The kids are running around. It was a lot of fun. They're just like Nerf gunning everyone. But some of these people, man, do they really go all out. So,
I know some of these.
yeah,
people.
so I met Darth Vader. I thanked him for his service to the Empire. I met R2D2. So my only other thing that I like to do for outreach is like my kind of the history between the two.
Costing prices on items already in inventory, including a
Uh-oh.
$50 million.
Mute 'em.
What
So today is the anniversary of Faith 7 that launched Gordon Cooper in I think it's 63. 22 orbits, so just shy of a day or so, a day and a half. Not quite 2 days, but that was the longest Mercury flight. Not quite shattering the Russians' record. We didn't do that until Gemini, but so that's your little history update. If you guys are doing anything, yeah, shoot me an email so I can get it into the WASP. And I have started my sequel to my Apollo lecture. I don't know if it's going to be done in 26. I have started reading Buzz Aldrin's PhD paper. So I got a lot of work ahead of me. But I'll let you know.
PhD paper. Okay.
Buzz Aldrin was Doc Rendezvous. His PhD is line of sight methods in manned orbital rendezvous.
Wow. I did not know that.
It's a read.
I'll bet.
Buzz Aldrin was an alien.
All right. Publications. Our publications officer is not online, but our newsletter editor is, and you can read our fine newsletter on our website. So if you need to contact the board, you can contact us at board@warrenastro.org. And without further ado, our special guest, David Levy. Let me get him on full screen here. You speaker. Take it away, David.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And one of my favorite poets has always been W.H. Auden. And I've enjoyed him right from high school. But I never knew that he had a sense of humor, A, and B, that he put that humor of his into some of his poetry. So for today's welcoming poem for the Warren Astronomical Society, I'm going to read The More Loving One. And here it goes. Looking up at the stars, I know quite well that for all they care, I can go to hell. But on earth, indifference is the least we have to dread from man or beast. How should we like it were stars to burn with a passion for us we could not return? If equal affection cannot be, let the more loving one be me. Admirer as I think I am of stars that do not give a damn, I cannot, now I see them, say, I missed one terribly all day. And were all stars to disappear or die, I should learn to look at an empty sky and feel its total dark sublime, though this might take me a little time. Thank you very much for letting me read that.
All right, thank you, David. All right, so getting into astronomy knows what is going on here. View, paper, gallery, there we go. Okay, so in astronomy news, NASA's Perseverance rover made history by detecting aurora on Mars, the first time from the surface of another planet. The MAVEN orbiter confirmed the detection. That was from a JPL news mailing that I got today. Okay, this was pretty interesting. I mentioned that I was the guest at the Vatican Observatory Foundation's Full Moon Zoom. The guy that interviewed me, his name is Rob Lorenz. He's a Jesuit who is their outreach, the Vatican Observatory's outreach officer. But he was, before he became a Jesuit, he was a park ranger, and he used to do moon walks at the state park he was at. And I'm like, I didn't know they did that. So I searched, and the Pure Michigan site has a couple moonwalk sites, and in a weird happenstance at the GLAC meeting, Tim Campbell mentioned that there's a new solar system ambassador from Michigan moonwalks at the Erie Lakes, Erie Metro Park, Lake Erie Metro Park. So if somebody from the WASP would like to start doing this on behalf of the WASP, that'd be great. Otherwise, just be aware that U.S. state parks do have moon and nighttime walks. It is a thing, so that's interesting. Exoplanet update. We have 5903 confirmed, less than 100 down from the 6,000 mark, which the NASA's exoplanet website's all up about. We have 7643 candidates. Both of these figures are up from last time. And Space Engine, that is the universe simulator app that I use for presentations and screenshots a lot. They had a recent update, and they added 9 new host stars and 13 new exoplanets. And I really think that's cool because you can go to these actual exoplanets that they've discovered and see what they might look like. Asteroid update, we have 1,000,004, and again, that number is up a little bit. And near Earth objects, we have 38,482. So that both of those numbers are up. We are still waiting for T Corona Borealis to go nova, which it hasn't. Special interest groups, solar, we had an X-class flare on May 13th. Actually, I think we had a couple of them. This is from spaceweather.com. Unlikely things do happen despite an official 1% chance of X flares on May 13th. A sunspot produced an eruption of X 1.2, and NASA Solar Dynamics Observatory recorded it in an animation. And another X 2.7 solar flare that was yesterday hurled a CME into space. It won't hit Earth, but it will hit Mars, triggering the first aurora warning for Mars I've ever seen. So according to a NASA model, that CME will reach Mars on the 18th, and it could spark global auroras and erode a small amount of the atmosphere. So I don't know, but the rover, the news thing about the auroras were pictures from the surface from the rover, so I'm sure they'll be looking again. So I don't.
Mars doesn't have
Yeah, well, it has small bits of field in places. It's weird.
That's why I'm surprised to see that.
See, it was, yeah, it's the same thing I was going to.
Yeah.
Yeah. There is no magnetic field.
Yeah, so I don't know how.
Particles could still slam into the atmosphere.
I guess so.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure they would be very, very.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks like something we have to do a little bit of research on the break here. So, spaceweather.com, they've got a picture of the sun, and NASA's Solar Dynamics Observatory is back up. So there are, let's see, I can actually bring that up. This is an animation. Let's see if I can share that to our Zoom audience. This is a video from the NASA Solar Dynamics Observatory, and I'm going to reset here, and I think you're going to see one of those giant flares over on the right side.
Yeah.
Boom.
So it's gonna miss us, right?
Oh yeah, it's going to miss us but hit Mars. And there's that giant sunspot.
That's tiny compared to the one that just left.
Yeah. I think last week.
Yeah, the one that was one of the biggest ones in
Yeah.
years.
What is the sun's rotation, about 28 days?
Yeah,
Yes,
something like that.
exactly that.
No, but 28 days for the equator. It's like 32 for the northern regions. It's weird. Okay, do we have any observing reports or astrophotos? Anybody got any pictures? Bob?
No pictures.
No pictures this time?
Weather hasn't been very conducive up until the last couple of days.
Actually, if we don't have any pictures, I do want to go to the GAWST site because they had a really cool picture.
I don't know whether I mentioned this or not for you, Bob, but
Yeah, there it is.
that I saw
Thing.
the partial solar eclipse
That thing.
that we had in May it.
From here?
I was in Binghamton, New York. It was a 20% coverage. It was just at sunrise.
Share.
And we were facing east out of our window, and it was cloudy the rest of the day, but we saw it. It was about 15 minutes or so, and it covered a little thing, and then it just moved right off.
Yeah, that is from
Cool.
that is Planetary Nebula NGC 1514. Mid-infrared shows rings and intricate clumps of dust. This thought that was really cool though. So I'm gonna have to start looking for JWS things to share on here. People need to start taking more pictures and sharing them again too. But back when we had COVID, man, that's we had 20 minutes of astro photos. It was crazy. All right, it is 7:25, and at this point, why don't we take a break for 20 minutes, and we'll meet again at let's see, actually 10 to, so 7:50 we'll reconvene, and we'll have our feature presentation. So take a bio break, get a munchie.
What's the Wi-Fi here?
Hmm?
Do we have a code?
No, you should be able to get on just free. It's Macomb. Oh heavens.
It's right there.
I'll give it to Bob.
This is the one. This is the big one.
Oh, you've got a gag.
That's the one.
This is-
we're talking about.
I am going to go to Facebook's
Yeah.
solar activity and see what they have, because they have a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
There it is.
And then
No, I don't want your AI. Thank you. Tell you what, I'll just share this with the viewing audience.
You see this one? Yeah. But it's very exciting.
Did that?
About 6 times the size of the Earth.
Not what I wanted to share. Share that.
6 times the size of the Earth.
Yeah.
Still not sharing it right. Gosh darn it.
This last week.
Green two. There we go.
It was.
Yeah.
Hey, Ken.
How did you see the hot?
Ken?
Yeah.
All right, so there's solar activity. This is the Facebook group where amateurs post pictures of the sun. Some of these are just
Big,
amazing.
big
This is really cool. This was AR 47.
Yeah, one last.
Look at that.
Pretty big.
Look at that.
They're the last few years. We're not summing.
No.
Every time I see these, I think that astronomers from the mid 1800s that were doing solar astronomy would just absolutely go ape. They're all amateurs, just from anything.
So it got there.
This is what you. You should be a little red dot.
Yeah, but I think for
Very
this,
good.
it's floating.
That's really a massive.
That's the thing that needs.
Nice specules. Look at that.
Dale. There's a. Where did that go?
It's
Crazy.
it's one of those things.
What's your available?
They can then donate cost items.
So I can give you.
Look at that. Like it, yeah, that's real. Wow.
I mean, I think they would have to kind of.
Hey, Bob, look at that picture. It's just amazing.
I like the
Contact gun, we don't know myself.
They're gonna give you cost items.
Put it up with the snakes.
Finder.
Oh.
Sorry, I called it late to the party. You got to answer the review.
Jerry here. Let's cancel the reading for tonight because there's ongoing right now meeting of the Warren Astronomical Society. Okay, thank you very much. I'll call you tomorrow. I hope you had a good day.
We don't get kicked out yet. We do get.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Like trillions of dollars, see what's out there.
Yeah, about public astronomy.
No, the only thing to do at Mars is to investigate what might.
There it goes. We got the speaker up.
This,
There's.
All right, we're ready to go.
Clouds filled in right now. No.
There is living bacteria in there.
Not
Because.
next.
As we could usually across the board.
Kenya, probably a good place.
In terms of the science.
So.
What
they have
happened
them
to
in a
Mars,
huge tile.
you know, geologically, it's really interesting because it's Mars kind of.
Wearing that back. I want that back. But now you can see the.
Yeah, here's a.
First guy. And the guy.
Talking around.
No, I got Ken truck today. I finally got plate.
It made a lot of.
With the gas on it, the gas and the gas. Stuff probably. So I'm trying to run it out. We're going out for astronomy tonight? Okay.
I hate the.
Astronomy?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Like sweating.
Yeah.
Laura called, they bring a meeting, so I thought the man doing well.
So you think you're gonna-
You know.
I don't know exactly. I don't know awards and different.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, it's so easy now.
I'm gonna learn to
You
get
get a
it
free
before I go.
printer. You can find all the findings online, and just how much time you wanna put into really detailing them up.
How about this year? What are the people that go on chat GPT?
My
No,
cat-
no,
my
no,
car is
neutral,
filter,
neutral,
my
neutral.
motor-
Either way.
my motor, my motor,
Probably
and
better
my-
to be able to do that.
Will do the right things.
Did you make that?
Yeah.
After.
With the right
And
words.
again.
Pull that picture up.
Did you?
You gotta see this,
What?
the guy told me it was about 15 grand.
Get it.
And he built it, he didn't buy it.
Okay. I shoot for okay.
So yes, we are going to.
We're all be.
Yep.
Funny yard work. Yeah. Cool. Cool.
I stumbled about it.
Nice, welcome back.
I nominate,
Yeah.
Carl.
I nominate Tina for.
Yeah, I'm gonna listen to it later.
It's a, you leaving us?
Yeah, I never stay for the meeting.
It's like, if I
I'm
was
up at
in the
5.
office,
So I gotta be in bed by 10.
the blue hat.
I know. Got some bad news from my friend here. Espinac.
I heard from the Glad meeting that he went into hospice and people were asking.
He's at hospice.
If he
But
was.
he has a thing called IPT. He's had it for years, but it started to get worse. And they were talking about a lung transplant. And they said that he wasn't a candidate. Probably agree. All right. Grab Nebula, what are you doing for that? That's all crazy.
It was drastically different.
Remember, if you want to point something on
I've heard like just really good.
and today where they could see
Stuff.
You bet. I'll do the best I can. I will do it. You just remind us, hey. I'm easy.
Since they were just going.
Dale, can you see that presentation?
Bring them over.
Absolutely.
Yes, I can.
All right. Yeah, we got a couple minutes. We got 2 minutes. 2-minute warning. Yeah, I'm excited about this.
I'm ready.
What's it worth today?
Hey, Karen. He taught at Cornell, didn't he?
Just wait. The later?
Yeah, he was, he didn't get, they wouldn't make him a professor at
Outreach.
Harvard.
Call me.
No, senior professor.
He taught there some, right?
He taught there as a guest
Nearly
or an
seven.
assistant, something like that.
Adjunct faculty.
At Harvard, and then he took the full job at Cornell. I'll be talking about it.
To get someone that way, you know, Marcus not our only one down there.
He did, he said a lot of things controversial.
Oh, but I need to.
You've got a lot of people,
I'm so,
You're gonna talk about that?
a little bit.
you did tell me, it's a breakfast, so it's not how fast I went.
You gonna stand, or you gonna sit?
I'll sit.
Okay.
I think you're ready.
I'm getting too old to stand.
Seriously?
Yeah. No, actually not, because I do a lot of fishing.
All right, we there yet? All right. Let's do it. All right, our first Vice President, Dale Parton, is going to introduce our speaker for tonight. Take it away, Dale.
And by the way, it's 72 years, not 65.
Okay, so tonight we have a speaker. We've been around this club for a while. He doesn't need an introduction. But for those who are relatively new, he's been into astronomy since he was in diapers.
Pretty much.
First.
There was Mama, Dada, and up there. He joined the Warren Astronomical Society 1993, became our vice president and then our president. Also won a couple of awards that this organization gives. He received the Searles Award, and he was awarded a lifetime membership, which very few have been awarded. One of his things has been going to eclipses. I think it turned him into a bit of a world traveler. Eclipses, transits of Venus and Mercury. He also likes giving presentations on historical figures in astronomy, people that did something significant. And that's what he's going to be doing tonight. He's going to be talking about Carl Sagan.
The old joke is when you go before people that have not heard much about astronomy, I always say, I can answer any question about astronomy you ask, not necessarily right, but you're not going to know the difference. So anyway, that's kind of a thing that you do. I'm going to tilt this down a little bit. All right, is that good?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to speak tonight about Carl Edward Sagan. You can hold your questions for a little bit later. There's plenty of things to cover. He was one of my heroes, many of yours as well. And the interesting thing about him is I've discovered over the last couple of years of studying him, there's several things I really wasn't crazy about that he did, but he still was very, very important to our science.
He was, of course, an American astronomer, planetary scientist, and a science communicator. He was born in Brooklyn, New York, on November the 9th, 1934. He graduated of Ray Y. High School in New Jersey. In 1951, he enrolled in the University of Chicago. There he earned 3 degrees, a bachelor's degree in 1955, a master's degree in 56, and both in physics and also a master's in both math and physics. And he got in 1960, he got a doctorate in astronomy and astrophysics. Carl was a brilliant mind with an astonishing IQ of 170, was not just a scientist, he was a visionary who unraveled the mysteries of the cosmos in its profound narrative. Carl Sagan grew up in Brooklyn, like I said, in New York, and he was raised by Eastern European immigrant Jewish parents. He when members he of his attended. Let's go to the next one. Did it?
Use the scroll wheel.
There it goes. Okay. His best known scientific contribution in his research on the possibility of extraterrestrial life included experimental demonstrations of the production of amino acids from basic chemicals by exposure to light. He assembled the first physical messages sent into space, the Pioneer Plaque and the Voyager Golden Record, which were universal messages that could potentially be understood by any extraterrestrial intelligence that might find them. The golden records carried by the Voyager 1 and 2 spacecraft are now in interstellar space, as you know. They departed our solar system and are traveling into the vast expanse of space between the stars. Just as a side remark, at the speed they're going, it took them 42 years to get out of the solar system. If they were going toward Alpha Centauri, they would get there in about 7,400 years, somewhere in that range. So we had a big place. He argued in favor of the hypothesis, which has since been accepted, that the high surface temperatures of Venus are the result of the greenhouse effect. Initially an assistant professor at Harvard, Sagan later moved to Cornell University, where he spent most of his career. He published more than 600 scientific papers and articles and was author and co-author or editor of more than 20 books. You can see the pictures there of Harvard and Cornell. He wrote many popular science books, such as The Dragons of Eden, Speculations on the Evolution of Human Intelligence, is a 1977 book in which Sagan combines the fields of anthropology, evolutionary biology, psychology, and computer science to give a perspective on how human intelligence may have evolved. Another book was Broca's Brain. The title essay is named in honor of the French physician, anatomist, and anthropologist Paul Broca, who lived from 1824 to 1880. He is best known for his discovery that different functions are assigned to different parts of the brain. He believed that by studying the brains of cadavers and correlating the known experiences of the former owners of the organs, humans' behavior could eventually be discovered and understood. To that end, he saved hundreds of human brains in jars of formalin. Among the collections is his own brain, by the way. And when Sagan finds it in the Musée Home, it's called La Home, he poses questions that challenge some core ideas of human existence, such as how much of that man known as Paul Broca can still be found in this jar, a question that evokes both religious and scientific argument. He also wrote The Pale Blue Dot in 1994, one of his later books. Sagan traces the spellbinding history of our launch into the cosmos and accesses the future that looms before us as we move into
out into our own solar system and on to distant galaxies. The fourth book was another one of them was The Damon Hunted World of 1995. Sagan aims to explain the scientific method to lay people and to encourage people to learn critical and skeptical thinking. He also co-wrote and narrated the award-winning 1980 television series Cosmos, A Personal Voyage, which became the most widely watched series in the history of American public television. Cosmos has been seen by at least 500 million people in 60 countries. A book also called Cosmos was published to accompany the series. Sagan also wrote a science fiction novel published in 1985 called Contact, which became the basis for the 1997 film Contact. His papers, comprising 595,000 items, are archived in the Library of Congress. Sagan played the leading role in the American space program from its very beginning. He was a consultant advisor to NASA beginning in the 1950s. He even briefed the Apollo astronauts before their flights to the moon. Sagan's biggest accomplishment is widely considered to be his ability to effectively communicate complex scientific ideas to a broad audience, particularly through his popular science books and the groundbreaking television series Cosmos. This series, which explored the history of science and civilization, became the most watched public television series at the time, as said, 500 million viewers in 60 countries. Beyond his popular science work, Sagan made significant contributions to planetary science, including research that helped explain the high temperatures of Venus and the reddish haze of Titan. He also played a crucial role in co-founding the Planetary Society, an organization that continues to advocate for space exploration and funding. Sagan's legacy is marked not only by his scientific achievements, but also by his ability to inspire a passion for science and critical thinking in countless individuals. Sagan was a popular public advocate of skeptical science inquiry and the scientific method. He pioneered the field of exobiology and promoted the search for extraterrestrial intelligence, that is known, of course, as SETI. He said he spent most of his career as a professor of astronomy at Cornell University, where he directed the laboratory for planetary studies. Sagan and his works received numerous awards and honors, including the NASA Distinguished Public Service Medal. The NASA Distinguished Service Medal is NASA's highest honor, awarded to individuals who have made a substantial contribution to the agency's mission, demonstrating exceptional service, ability, or courage. It is the highest recognition NASA has bestowed, as said, upon its employees and those who have contributed to its success. He also received this National Academy of Science Public Welfare Medal, the Academy's most prestigious award, presented annually to recognize, quote, the extraordinary use of science for the public good, end of quote. Third, the Pulitzer Prize for general nonfiction for his book, The Dragons of Eden, and for Cosmos, A Personal Voyage. 2 Emmy Awards, a Peabody Award, and a Hugo Award.
A Hugo Award?
The Hugo Award.
For Contact?
Yeah, I guess that's
a science fiction award.
That's what you got. All right. Carl Sagan was born on November the 9th, 1934, set in the Bensonhurst neighborhood of New York's Brooklyn borough. His mother, Rachel Molly Gruber, was a housewife from New York City. His father, Samuel Sagan, who lived to 1979, was a Ukrainian-born garment worker who had immigrated from Kamyanets Podilsky. It's then in the Russian Empire. I can't pronounce. Chaya Clara, who had died while giving birth to her second child. She was in Sagan's world the mother she, and that's Rachel, never knew. Sagan, maternal grandfather, later married a woman named Rose, whose Sagan's sister Carol would later say was never accepted as Rachel's mother because Rachel knew
she wasn't her birth mother. Sagan's family lived in a modest apartment in Bensonhurst. He later described his family as, again, Reformed Jews, one of the more liberal Judaism four main branches. He and his sister agreed that their father was not especially religious, but that their mother definitely believed in God and was active in the temple and served only kosher meat. During the worst years of the Depression, his father worked as a movie theater usher. According to biographer K.A. Davison, Sagan experienced an kind of an interwar as a result of his close relationship with both his parents, who were in many ways, quote, opposites, end of quote. He traced his analytical inclinations to his mother, who had been extremely poor as a child in New York during World War I and the 20s, and whose later intellectual ambitions were sabotaged by her poverty, status as a woman, a wife, and Jewish ethnicity. Davison suggested she worshipped her only son, Carl, because he would fulfill her unfulfilled dreams. Sagan believed that he had inherited his sense of wonder from his father, who spent his free time giving apples to the poor and helping soothe tension between workers and management within New York's garment industry. Although awed by his son's intellectual abilities, Sagan's father also took his inquisitiveness in stride, viewing it as part of growing up. Later, during his career, Sagan would draw on his childhood memories to illustrate scientific points, as he did in his book, Shadows of Forgotten Ancestors. Describing his parents' influence on his later thinking, Sagan said, "My parents were not scientists. They knew almost nothing about science, but introducing me simultaneously to skepticism and to wonder. They taught me to the two uneasily cohabitating modes that are central to the scientific method." Quote, he recalled that a defining moment in his development came from his parents when his parents took him at age 4 to the 1939 New York World's Fair. He later described his vivid memories of several exhibits there. One titled America of Tomorrow included a movie mat, which, as he recalled, showed beautiful highways and clover leaves and little General Motors cars, all carrying people to the skyscrapers, buildings, also with lovely spires, flying buttresses, and it looked great, he said. Another involved a flashlight shining on a photoelectric cell, which created a cracking sound. Another showed how the sound from a tuning fork became a wave on an oscilloscope. He also saw an exhibit of the then nascent medium known as television. Remembering it, he later wrote plainly, quote, "The world helped wonders of a kind I had never guessed. How could a tone become a picture and light become a noise?" End of quote. Sagan also saw one of the fair's most publicized events, the burial at Flushing Meadows of a time capsule which contained mementos from the 1930s to be recovered by Earth's descendants in future millennium. Davidson wrote that this thrilled Carl, quote and unquote, as an adult, inspired by his memories of the World's Fair. Sagan and his colleagues would recreate similar time capsules to be sent out into the galaxy, the Pioneer plaque and the Voyager Golden record precisely. During World War II, Sagan's parents worried about the fate of their European relatives, but he was generally aware of the details of the going war. He wrote, "Sure, we had relatives," this is a quote, "who were caught up in the Holocaust. Hitler was not a popular fellow in our household, but on the other hand, I was fairly insulated from the horrors of the war," end of quote. His sister Carol said that their mother, above all, wanted to protect Carl. She was she had an extraordinarily difficult time dealing with World War II and the Holocaust. Sagan's book, The Demon Hunted World, from 1996, included his memories of his conflicted period when his family dealt with the realities of war in Europe, but tried to prevent it from undermining his optimistic spirit. Soon after entering the elementary school, Sagan began to express his strong inquisitiveness about nature.
He recalled taking his first trips to the public library alone at age 5 when his mother got him a library card. He wanted to learn what the stars were, since none of his friends or parents would give him a clear answer. I went into the librarian, he says, and asked for a book about stars, and the answer was stunning. It was the sun. It was that the sun was a star, but really close. The stars were suns, but so far away they were just little points of light. The scale of the universe suddenly opened to me, and it was kind of a religious experience. There was magnificence to it, a grandeur. The scale was the scale which has never left me. Never left me, he said. When he was about 6 or 7, he and a close friend took trips to the American Museum of Natural History in Manhattan. While there, they visited the Hayden Planetarium and walked around exhibits of space objects such as meteorites, as well as displays of dinosaur skeletons and naturalistic scenes from animals. As Sagan later wrote, end quotes, I was transfixed by the dioramas, lifelike representations of animals and their habitats all over the world, penguins on the dimly lit Antarctic ice, a family of gorillas, the male beating his chest, an American grizzly bear standing on his hind legs, 10 or 12 feet tall and staring me right in the eye. Sagan's parents nurtured his growing in, but his fascination with other space emerged as a primary focus, especially after he read the science fiction by such writers as H.G. Wells, Edgar Rice Burroughs, stirring his curiosity about the possibility of life on Mars and other planets. According to biographer Ray Spagenberg, Sagan's effort in his early years to understand the mysteries of the planets became a driving force in his life. It continually inspired to his intellect and a quest that would never be forgotten. In 1947, Sagan discovered the magazine Astounding Science Fiction, which introduced him to more hard science fiction speculations than those in the Burroughs novels. That same year, mass hysteria developed about the possibility that extraterrestrial visitors had arrived in flying saucers, and the young Sagan joined the speculation that the flying discs people reported seeing in the sky might be alien spaceships. You can see what an interesting guy this was. His education, Sagan, this is a picture of Sagan on the right on Sagan's in University of Chicago's 1954 yearbook. That was also a picture of him when he was at the high school level when he was 16. Sagan attended David A. Brody Junior High School in his native Bensonhurst and had his bar mitzvah when he turned 13. In 1948, when he was 14, his father took the family to an older semi-industrial town of Rahway, New Jersey, where he attended Rahway High School. He was a straight A student, but was bored because his classes did not challenge him and his teachers did not inspire him. His teacher realized this and tried to convince the parents to send him to private school, with an administrator telling them, this kid ought to go to a school for gifted children. He has something really remarkable. End of quote. However, his parents could not afford to do so. Sagan became president of the school's chemistry club. He set up his own laboratory at home. He taught himself about molecules by making cardboard cutouts to help him visualize how they formed. He found that about as interesting as doing chemical experiments. He was mostly interested in astronomy, learning about it in his spare time. In his junior year in high school, he discovered that professional astronomers were paid for doing something he always enjoyed and decided on astronomy as a career goal. Quote, this was a splendid day when I began to suspect that if I tried hard, I could do astronomy full-time, not just part-time. Sagan graduated from Ray High School in 1951. Before the end of his high school, Sagan entered an essay writing contest in which he explored the idea that human contact with advanced life forms from other planets might be as disastrous for people on Earth as Native Americans' first contact with Europeans had been with the Native Americans. The subject was considered controversial, and his rhetorical skill
won over the judges, and they awarded him first prize. When he was about to graduate from high school, his classmates voted him most likely to succeed and put him in line as to be valedictorian rather. He attended the University of Chicago because despite his excellent high school grades, it was one of the very few college year-old. His chancellor, Robert Maynard Hutchins had recently retooled the undergraduate college of the University of Chicago into an idea meritocracy. That's meritocracy, built on great books, Socratic dialogue, comprehensive examinations, and early entrance to college with no age requirement. As the honors program undergraduate, Sagan worked in the laboratory of geneticist H.G. Mueller, who wrote the thesis on the origins of life with physical chemist Harold Urey. He also joined the Ryerson Astronomical Society. In 1954, he was awarded a Bachelor of Liberal Arts with general and special honors in what he quipped was nothing. In 1955, he earned a Bachelor of Science in Physics. He went on to graduate school at the University of Chicago, earning a Master's of Science in Physics in 1956 and a Doctor of Philosophy in Astronomy and Astrophysics in 1960. His doctoral thesis, submitted to the Department of Astronomy and Astrophysics, was entitled Physical Studies of the Planets. During his graduate studies, he used the summer months to work with planetary scientist J.P. Kuiperbelt, anybody know, who was his dissertation director, as well as the physicist George Gamow. That's how it's pronounced, by the way. G-A-M-O-W is Gamow. And scientist Melvin Calvin. The title of Sagan's dissertation reflected an interest he had in common with Kuiper, who had been president of the International Astronomy Union's Commission on Physical Studies of Planets and Satellites throughout the 1950s. 1958, Sagan and Kuiper worked on the classified military project A119, a secret United States Air Force plan to detonate a nuclear warhead on the moon and document the effects. Sagan had a top secret clearance at the Air Force and a secret clearance with NASA. In 1999, an article published in the journal Nature revealed that Sagan had included the classified titles in two Project A119 papers in his 1959 application for a scholarship to the University of California, Berkeley. A follow-up letter to the journal by project leader Leonard Reifel confirmed Sagan's security leak. Career in research. From 1916, excuse me, I'll be all right. So from 1960 to 62, Sagan was the Miller Fellow at the University of California, Berkeley. Meanwhile, he published an article in 1961 in the journal Science of the Atmosphere of Venus, while also working with NASA's Mariner 2 team. He served as a planetary sciences consultant to the RAND Corporation. After the publication of Sagan's science article in 1961, Harvard University astronomers Fred Whipple and Donald Menzel offered Sagan an opportunity to give a colloquium at Harvard and subsequently offered him a lecturer position at the institution. Sagan instead asked to be made an assistant professor, and eventually Whipple and Menzel were able to convince Harvard to offer the assistant professor position he requested. Sagan lectured, performed research, and advised graduate students of the institution from 1963 to 68, as well as working at the Smithsonian Astrophysical Observatory, also located in Cambridge, Massachusetts. In 68, Sagan was denied academic tenure at Harvard. He later indicated that the decision was very unexpected. The denial has been blamed for several factors, including that he focused his interest too broadly across a number of areas, while the norm in academia is to become a renowned expert in a narrow specialty. And perhaps because of his well-publicized scientific advocacy, which some scientists perceived as borrowing the ideas of others and a little more for a little more than self-promotion. An advisor from his years as an undergraduate student, Harold Urey, wrote a letter to the tenure committee, recommended strongly against tenure for Sagan. Long before the ill-fated tenure process, Cornell University astronomer Thomas Gold had courted Sagan to move to Ithaca, New York to join the recently hired astronomer Frank Drake among the faculty at Cornell. Following the denial of tenure at Harvard, Sagan accepted Gold's offer and remained a faculty member at Cornell for nearly 30 years until his death in 1996. Unlike Harvard, the smaller and more laid-back astronomy department at Cornell welcomed Sagan's growing celebrity status. Following 2 years as associate professor, Sagan became a full professor at Cornell in 1970 and directed the laboratory for planetary studies there. From 1972 to 1981, he was associate director of the Center for Radiophysics and Space Research at Cornell. In 1976, he became David Duncan Professor of Astronomy and Space Scientist, a position he held for the remainder of his life. Sagan wrote this piece in Demon Haunted World, 1955. Science is more than a body of knowledge. It is a way of thinking. I have a foreboding of an American in my children's or grandchildren's time, when the United States is a service and information economy, when nearly all the key manufacturing industries have slipped away to other countries, where awesome technological powers are in the hands of the very few. No one representing the public interest can even grasp the issues. When the people have lost the ability to set their own agendas or knowledgeably question those in authority, when clutching our crystals and nervously consulting our horoscopes, our critical faculties in decline, unable to distinguish between what feels good and what's true, we slide almost without noticing back into superstition and darkness. The dumbing down of America is the most evident in the slow decay of substantive contact in the enormously influential media. And 30-second sound bites, now down to 10 seconds or less, he said. Lowest common denominator programming, credulous presentations on the pseudoscience and superstition, but especially a kind of celebration of ignorance. And that's what he wrote in 1995. There we go.
We're there yet.
They're getting there. Okay, Sagan was associated with the U.S. space program from its inception. From the 1950s onward, he worked as an advisor to NASA, where one of his duties included briefing the Apollo astronauts before their flights to the moon. Sagan contributed to many of the robotic spacecraft missions that explored the solar system, arranging experiments on many of the expeditions. Sagan assembled the first physical message that was sent into space, a gold-plated plaque, which we talked about, attached to the space probe Pioneer 10, which was launched in 1972 to Jupiter. Pioneer 11 also carried another copy of the plaque, was launched the following year. He continued to refine his designs, and most elaborate message he helped to assemble was the Voyager Golden Record, which was sent out with Voyager space probes in 1977. Sagan often challenged the decisions to fund the space shuttle and the International Space Station at the expense of further robotic missions, something I disagree with him on, by the way. Scientific achievements. The former student, David Morrison, described Sagan as, quote, an ideal person with a master of, what did it do that? Not supposed to do that. Go back. Why did it do that, I wonder? All right. It was an idea person and a master of intuitive physical arguments and back of the envelope calculations. And Jared Kuiper said that, quote, some persons work best in specializing on a major program in the laboratory. Others are best in liaison between scientists. Dr. Sagan belongs to the latter group. Sagan's contributions were central to the discovery of the high surface temperatures on the planet Venus
In the early 1960s, no one knew for certain the basic conditions of Venus' surface, and Sagan listed the possibilities in a report later depicted for popularization in the Time Life book Planets. His own view was that Venus was very dry and very hot, as opposed to the balmy paradise others had imagined. He had instigated radio waves from Venus and concluded that there was a surface temperature of about 500 degrees Celsius or 900 degrees Fahrenheit. As a visiting scientist of NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, he contributed to the first Mariner missions to Venus, worked on the design and management of the project. Mariner 2 confirmed his conclusions on the surface of condition in 1962. Sagan was among the first to hypothesize that Saturn's moon Titan, might possess oceans and liquid compounds on its surface, and that Jupiter's moon Europa might possess subsurface oceans of water. This would make Europa potentially habitable. Europa's subsurface ocean of water was later indirectly confirmed by the spacecraft Galileo. The mystery of Titan's reddish haze was also solved with Sagan's help. The reddish haze was revealed to be due to complex organic molecules constantly raining down into Titan's surface. Sagan further contributed to insights regarding the atmospheres of Venus and Jupiter, as well as the seasonal changes on Mars. He also perceived global warming as a growing man-made danger and likened it to the natural development of Venus into a hot, life-hostile planet through a kind of runaway greenhouse effect. He testified to the U.S. Congress in 1985 that the greenhouse effect would change the Earth's climate system. Sagan and Cornell colleague Edwin Ernest Salpeter speculated about life in Jupiter's clouds, even the planet's dense atmospheric composition rich in organic molecules. He studied the observed color variations on Mars' surface and concluded they were not seasonal or vegetational changes, as most believed, but shifts in surface dust caused by windstorms. Sagan was also known for his research in the possibility of extraterrestrial life, including experimental demonstration of the production of amino acids from basic chemicals by radiation. In 1994, he became the recipient of the Public Welfare Medal, the highest award by the National Academy of Sciences for distinguished contributions in the application of science to the public welfare. He was denied membership in the Academy, reportedly because his media activities made him unpopular with many scientists. As of 2017, Sagan is the most cited SETI scientist and one of the most cited planetary scientists. Cosmos, popularizing science on TV. I need to get myself a little bit better situated here, or gravity is going to take me to the Earth. In 1980, Sagan co-wrote and narrated the award-winning 13-part PBS television series Cosmos, A Personal Voyage, which became the most widely watched series in the history of American public television until 1990. The show has been seen by at least, like we said, 500 million people across 60 countries. The book, Cosmos, written by Sagan, was published to accompany the series. Because of his early popularity as a science writer, best-selling books including Dragons of Eden, and for which he won a Pulitzer Prize in 1977, he was asked to write and narrate the show. It was targeted to the general audience of viewers who Sagan felt had lost interest in science, partly due to a stifled educational system. In each of the 13 episodes was created to focus on a particular subject or person, thereby demonstrating the synergy of the universe. They cover the wide range of scientific subjects, including the origin of life and the perspective of humans' place on Earth. The show won an Emmy, along with a Peabody Award, and transformed Sagan from an obscure astronomer into a pop culture icon. Time magazine ran a cover story about Sagan soon after the show was broadcast, referring to him as, quote, creator, chief writer, and host narrator of the show, end of quote. In 2000, Cosmos was released on a remastered set of DVDs. Billions and billions we go to. After Cosmos aired, Sagan became associated with the catchphrase billions and billions. Although never actually used the phrase in the Cosmos series, he rather used the term billions upon billions. That was what it was. Richard Feynman, a precursor to Sagan, used the phrase billions and billions many times in his red books. However, Sagan's frequent use of the word billions and distinctive delivery, emphasizing the B, which he did intentionally in place of more cumbersome alternatives such as billions with a B in order to distinguish from the word millions, made his favorite target of comic performances, including Johnny Carson, Gary Kroeger, Mike Myers, Bronson Pinchot, Penn Jillette, Henry Scherer, and others. Frank Zappa satirized the line in the song. Be in my video, noted as well as Atomic Light. Sagan took this all in good humor, and his final book was titled Billions and Billions, which opened with a tongue-in-cheek discussion of his catchphrase, observing that Carson was an amateur astronomer and Carson's comic caricature often included real science. As a humorous tribute to Sagan and associated with the catchphrase billions and billions, the Sagan had been defined as a unit of measurement. A Sagan has been defined as a unit of measurement equivalent to a very large number of anything. Love it. Sagan's number. This is the one that I mentioned earlier to you. Sagan's number is the number of stars in the observable universe. The number is reasonably well defined because it is known that stars are and what the observed universe is, but its value is highly uncertain. In 1980, Sagan estimated it to be 10 sextillion in short scale, 1022. And in 2003, it was estimated to be 70 sextillion, or 7 times 1022. In 2010, it was estimated to be 300 sextillion stars in the universe. And as you can see, is what I said there, that for every grain of sand on the Earth, there's 47 quadrillion of them. For each one, there's 24,000 stars. Scientific and critical thinking advocacy. Carl Sagan popularized cosmic calendar as a method to visualize the chronology of the universe, scaling its current age to 13.8 billion years to a single year to help intuit it for pedagogical. I don't know what that word is. pedagogical purposes. Anyone want to pronounce it for me? Go for it. Sagan's ability to convey his ideas allowed many people to understand the cosmos better, simultaneously emphasizing the value and worthiness, I'm sorry, of the human race and the relative insignificance of the Earth in the comparison to the universe. He delivered a 1977 series of Royal Institution Christmas lectures in London. Sagan was a proponent of the research for extraterrestrial life. He urged the scientific community to listen with radio telescopes for signals of potential intelligent extraterrestrial life forms. Sagan was so persuasive that by 1982 he was able to get a petition advocating SETI published in the journal Science, signed by 70 scientists, including seven Nobel Prize winners. This signaled a tremendous increase in the respectability of a then controversial field. Sagan also helped Frank Drake write the Arecibo message, a radio message beamed into space from the Arecibo radio telescope on November the 16th, 1974, aimed at informing potential extraterrestrials about Earth. Sagan was the chief technology officer of the professional planetary research journal Icarus for 12 years. He co-founded the Planetary Society and was a member of the SETI Institute of Board of Trustees. Sagan served as chairman of the Division for Planetary Science of the American Astronomical Society, as president of the planetary section of the American Geophysical Union, and as chairman of the astronomy section of the American Association for the Advancement of Science. At the height of the Cold War, Sagan became involved in nuclear disarmament efforts by promoting hypotheses on the effects of nuclear war when Paul Crussen's twilight at noon concept suggested that a substantial nuclear exchange could contribute to a nuclear twilight and upset the delicate balance of life on Earth by cooling the surface. In 1983, he was one of the 5 officers, the S, in the following up TTAPS model as a research article came to be known, which contained the first use of the term nuclear winter, which his colleague Richard Turco had coined. In 1984, he co-authored the book The Cold and the Dark, The World After Nuclear War, and in 1990, the book A Path Where No Man Thought Nuclear Winter and the End of the Arms Race, which explains nuclear winter hypothesis and advocates nuclear disarmament. Sagan received a great deal of skepticism and disdain for the use of media to decimate a very uncertain hypothesis. The personal correspondence with nuclear physicist Edward Teller around 1983 began amicably, with Teller expressing support for continued research to ascertain the credibility as winter hypothesis. However, Sagan and Teller's correspondence would ultimately result in Teller writing, quote, "A propagandist is one who uses incomplete information to produce maximum persuasion. I can compliment you on being indeed an excellent propagandist, remembering that a propagandist is the less he appears to be one." The biographers of Sagan would also comment, from a scientific viewpoint, nuclear winter was a low point for Sagan, although politically speaking, it popularized his image among the public. The adult Sagan remained a fan of science fiction, disliking stories were not realistic, such as ignoring the inverse square law, or, as he said, did not include thoughtful pursuit of alternate futures. He wrote books to popularize science, such as Cosmos, obviously, which reflected and expanded upon some of the themes of a personal voyage and became the best-selling science book ever published in English. Dragons of Eden, Speculations on the Evolution of Human Intelligence, won a Pulitzer Prize, broke his bane, Reflections of the Romance of Science. Sagan also wrote the best-selling science fiction novel, Contact, in 1985, based on the film treatment he wrote with his wife, Anne Druyan, in 1979. But he did not see the book's 1997 motion picture adaptation because he was gone, which starred Jodie Foster and won a 1998 Hugo Award for Best Dramatic Presentation. Sagan wrote a sequel to Cosmos, The Pale Blue Dot, a vision of the human future in space, which was selected as a notable book of 1995 by the New York Times. He appeared in PBS's Charlie Rose program in January of 95. Sagan also wrote an introduction to Stephen Hawking's bestseller, The Brief History of Time. Sagan was also known for his popularization of science, his efforts to increase scientific understanding among the general public, and his positions to favor science skepticism and against pseudoscience, such as his debunking of Betty and Barney Hill abduction. To mark the 10th anniversary of Sagan's death, let me do this again. I'm sorry. Wait a minute. David Morrison, a former student of Sagan, recalled Sagan's immense contribution to planetary research, the public understanding of science, and the skeptical movement in Skeptical Inquirer. In later years, Sagan advocated for the creation of an organized search for asteroids, near-Earth objects that might impact the Earth, but to forestall and postpone developing technological methods that would be needed to defend against them. He argued that all of the numerous methods proposed to alter the orbit of the asteroid, including employment of nuclear detonations, created a deflection dilemma. If the ability to deflect the asteroid away from the Earth exists, then one could also have the ability to divert a non-threatening object toward Earth, creating an immensely destructive weapon. In 1994 paper, he co-authored and ridiculed the 3-day-long near-Earth object interception workshop held by Los Alamos Laboratory in 1993 that did not even in passing state that such interception deflection technologies could have these ancillary dangers. He remained hopeful the natural NEO impact threat, and he continued to talk about the new and potent motivation to maturing international relations, later acknowledging that with significant international oversight in the future, work our way up approach to implementing nuclear explosive deflection methods which could be fielded, and when significant knowledge was gained, to use them to aid in mining asteroids. His interest in the use of nuclear detonation in space grew out of his work in 1958 for the Armor Research Foundation's Project A119, concerned the possibility of detonating a nuclear device on the lunar surface. Sagan was a critic of Plato, having said of the ancient Greek philosopher, science and mathematics were to be removed from the hands of the merchants and artisans. This tendency found its most effective advocate in the follower of Pythagoras named Plato. Plato, believed that the ideas were far more real than the natural world. He advised astronomers not to waste their time observing the stars and the planets. It was better, he believed, just to think about them. Plato expressed hostility to observation and experiment. He taught contempt to the real world and disdain for the practical applications of scientific knowledge. Plato's followers succeeded in extinguishing the light of science and experiment that had been kindled by democracies and the other Ionians. In 1995, as part of a book, Demon Haunted World, Sagan popularized a set of tools for skeptical thinking called the baloney detection kit, the phrase first coined by Arthur Fellenbaum and his friend and his wife, Andrea Lynn. Sagan was popularizing science. Speaking about his activities in popularizing science, Sagan said that there were at least two reasons for scientists to share the purposes of science in a contemporary state. Simple self-interest was one. Much of the funding for science came from the public, and the public therefore had the right to know how the money was being spent. If scientists increased public admiration for science, there was good chance of having more public supporters. The other reason was the excitement of communicating one's own excitement about science to others. Following the success of Cosmos Science, Sagan set up his own publishing firm, Cosmos Store, to publish science books for the general public. It was not a successful venture. Criticism. While Sagan was widely adored by the general public, his reputation of scientific was much more polarized. Critics sometimes characterized his work as fanciful, non-rigorous, and self-aggrandizing, and others complained in his later years that he neglected his role as faculty member to foster his celebrity status. One of Sagan's harshest critics, Harold Urey, felt that Sagan was getting too much publicity for his science and was treating some scientific theories too casually. Urey and Sagan were said to have different philosophies of science, according to Davidson. While Urey was an old-time empiricist who avoided theorizing about the unknown, Sagan was, by the contrast, willing to speculate openly about such matters. Fred Whipple wanted Harvard to keep Sagan there, but learned that because Urey was a Nobel laureate, his opinion was an important factor in Harvard denying Sagan's tenure. Sagan's Harvard friend Lester Grinspone also stated, "I know Harvard well enough to know there are people there who certainly do not like people who are outspoken." He added, "Whenever you turned, there was one astronomer being quoted on everything. One astronomer whose face you see on TV. One astronomer whose book said the preferred display slot in the local bookstore. Some, like Urey, later believed that Sagan's popular brand of science advocacy was beneficial to science as a whole. Urey especially liked Sagan's The Dragons of Eden. I like it very much and am amazed to someone like you has such an intimate knowledge of various features of the problem, and I congratulate you are a man of many talents." Sagan was accused of borrowing some ideas from others for his own benefit, and that also worked against him to some degree. Social concern. Sagan believed that the Drake equilibrium, which substitution of reasonable estimates suggested that a large number of extraterrestrial civilizations would form, but that the lack of the evidence of such civilizations highlighted by the Fermi paradox suggests technological civilizations tend to self-destruct. This simulated his interest in identifying the publicly ways that humanity could destroy itself, with the hope of avoiding such a cataclysm and eventually becoming a spacefaring species. Sagan's deep concern regarding the potential destruction of human civilization and the nuclear holocaust was conveyed in a memorable cinematic sequence in the final episode of Cosmos. Who Speaks for the Earth? Um, uh, the other thing was Sagan was already resigned from the Air Force Scientific Advisory Board UFO investigating Condon Committee, voluntarily surrendering his type secret clearance to protest the Vietnam War. Following his marriage to Anne Duran, he became more politically active, particularly opposing escalation of nuclear arms race under President Reagan. He also had a problem with the Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev declared that the unilateral moratorium on the testing of nuclear weapons, which would begin in August 6, 1985, the 40th anniversary of Hiroshima. The Reagan administration dismissed the dramatic route as nothing more than propaganda and refused to follow suit. And Sagan stood behind him in that regard. After his support of the concept of testosterone poisoning was revealed, Carl Sagan was interviewed by Ted Turner. Whether he believed in socialization, responded that I am not sure that a socialist is, but I believe the government has a responsibility to care for the people. I'm talking about making the people self-reliant. He stood out and said that testosterone can be used as a poison. And that was another one of the controversial things he got into. In his personal life and beliefs, Sagan was married 3 times. In 1957, he married biologist Lynn Margulis. The couple had 2 children, Jeremy and Dorian Sagan. Their marriage ended in 1964. Sagan married artist Linda Salzman in 1968. So they had a child together, Nick Sagan, and divorced in 1981. During these marriages, Sagan focused heavily on his career, in fact, which may have contributed to Sagan's first divorce. In 1981, he married author Anne Druyan, and they later had 2 children, Alexander, known as Sasha, and Samuel. Carl Sagan and Druyan remained married until he passed in 1996. We're almost through, gang. Okay. While teaching at Cornell, he lived in the Egyptian revival house in Ithaca and perched on the edge of a cliff, and had formerly been the headquarters of the Cornell University Secret Society. In 1994, engineers of Apple Computer, codenamed Power Macintosh 7100, Carl Sagan, and billions, and hope that Apple would make billions and billions, obviously, with the sale of the Power Mac. Name was only used internally, but Sagan was concerned that it would become a product endorsement and sent Apple a cease and desist letter. He also his name there was wait a minute, and Apple complied, and the engineers retaliated by changing the internal code name to BHA, Butthead Astronomer. In November of 1995, with thorough legal battles and out-of-sort settlement that reached with the Apple's Office of Trademarks and Patents and conciliatory agreement with Apple, was also had great respect for Dr. Sagan. It was never Apple's intention to cause Dr. Sagan and his family any embarrassment. And later on, he got involved with Marvin Minsky, another fine astronomer, and he said. One of the things, I guess, one thing about the book made me nervous, said Minsky, that he wrote, The Cosmic Connection. It's obviously too obvious that you are smarter than I am. I hate that Isaac Asimov, in a letter Sagan was acquainted with science fiction fandom, although his friendship with Isaac Asimov, and he spoke of the Nebula Award ceremony in 1969, which again was awarded to him. Asimov described Sagan as the
one of only two people I've ever met whose intellect surpassed his own. And other than being a computer scientist and artificial intelligence, that was Marvin Minsky that we talked about as well. I want to carry through this a little bit faster. Okay. There we go. Okay. Naturalization. Sagan wrote frequently about religion and the relationship between religion and science, expressing his skepticism about the conventional conceptualization of God as a sapient being. For example, some people think God is an outsized, light-skinned male with long white beard sitting on a throne somewhere up there in the sky, busily tailing the fall of every sparrow. Others, for example, Baruch Spinoza and Albert Einstein, considered God to be essentially the sum total of the physical laws which describes the universe. I do not know of any compelling evidence for anthropomorphic patriots continuing human destiny from some hidden celestial vantage point, but it would be madness to deny the existence of physical laws. On atheism, Sagan said, an atheist is someone who is certain that God does not exist, someone who has compelling evidence against the existence of God. I have no such compelling evidence because God can be relegated to remote times and places and to ultimate causes. We would have to know a great deal more about the universe than we do know now to be sure that there is no such God exists. To be certain of the existence of God has to be certain of the non-existence. God seems to me to be confident extremes in a subject so riddled with doubt and uncertainty as to inspire very little confidence indeed. And he had remarks on other religions as well as he went through. He stated that spirit comes from the Latin word to breathe, that we breathe an air which is certainly matter, however thin. Despite usages to the contrary, there's no necessary implication the word spiritual that we are talking of anything other than matter, because the matter of which the brain is made, or anything else outside the realm of science. On occasion, I will feel free to use the word. Science is not only compatible with spirituality, it is a profound source of spirituality when we recognize our place in the immensity of light years and in the passage of ages, when we grasp the intricacy and beauty and subtlety of life, then that soaring feeling, that sense of elation and humility combined is surely spiritual. By him and other noted scientists, as well as religious readers, published in 1990, stated that the historical record makes clear that religion's teaching, example, and leadership are powerfully able to influence personal contact and commitment. Thus, there is a vital role in religion and science. And reply to a question in 1996 about his religious beliefs, Sagan said he was an agnostic. Sagan maintained the idea of the creator of God of the universe was difficult to prove or disprove, and that there are only conceivable scientific discovery that could challenge. Anne Duran said to him, when my husband died, because he was so famous and known for being a believer, many people would come up to me, and still sometimes happens, and ask if Carl changed at the end and converted to the belief of afterlife. I was also frequently asked if I think I will see him again, and she said, no, I will not see him again, because if there's a heaven, he won't be there. All right. And then, of course, Sagan was widely regarded as a free thinker and skeptic. One of the most famous quotations, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence from cosmos. It was based on a nearly identical statement by the fellow founder of the Committee of Scientific Investigation of Claims of the Paranormal, Marcello Truzzi, an extraordinary claim which requires extraordinary proof. This idea was earlier aphorized in Theodore Flournoy's work From India to the Planet Mars, from a longer quote by Pierre-Simon Laplace, a French mathematician and astronomer, as the principle of Laplace. The weight of the evidence should be proportioned to the strangeness of the facts.
Later in life, Sagan most elaborated on the natural view of the world. He and his wife, his widow, Andorin, believed that he believed in the world, is what he believed in. He believed in the world of humans, is what he believed in. And the treatment of animals were very, very important to him. He was in the cause of saving species. He was, if there's no life on Mars, I believe we will do nothing with Mars. Belongs to the Martians. Even the Martians are only microbes, is the way he put it. So he always had a statement on some point. And of course, he put together the National Organization Reform of Marijuana Laws. He was a marijuana smoker his entire life, and he wanted them to legalize it. And that was one of the other things about him that was interesting. In 1947, the year of the inaugurated the flying saucer craze, the young Sagan suspected this might be alien spaceships. Sagan's interest in UFO reports prompted him in 1952 to write a letter to the U.S. Secretary of State Dean Acheson to ask how the United States would respond if flying saucers turned out to be extraterrestrial. He later had several conversations with Jacques Vallée and Spielberg's a model for the character of Claude Lacombe, the French scientist played by Francis Truffaut in Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Though quite skeptical of any extraordinary answers to the UFO question, Sagan thought the science should study the phenomenon, and at least because there was widespread public interest in the UFO reports. He rejected extraterrestrial explanation for the phenomena he felt was both empirical and pedagogical benefits for examining UFO reports. The subject was therefore a legitimate study of the science. What about the UFOs? Getting down to it. After suffering from myelodysplasia for 2 years and receiving 3 bone marrow transplants from his sister, Sagan died from the pneumonia at the age of 62 at the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Institute in Seattle. In December the 20th, 1996, he was buried at Lakeview Cemetery in Ithaca, New York. And what I wanted to show here just briefly, these were his awards and honors. He even had posthumous recognition sites named after him. The Sagan Planetary Walk was opened in Ithaca, New York, as a walking scale model of the solar system and the landing site of the unscrewed Pathfinder. And he was honored tremendously throughout his life. Sagan has 3 awards named in his honor. The Carl Sagan Memorial Award, presented jointly in 1997 by the American Astronomical Society and Planetary Society. The Carl Sagan Medal for Excellence in Public Communications and Planetary Science, presented since 1998 by the American Astronomical Division of Planetary Scientists. The Carl Sagan Award of Public Understanding of Science, presented by the Council of Scientific Society Presidents. Sagan was the first recipient of this particular award in 1993. And there's Carl Sagan, 1934 to 1996. Have any questions? I know I took a little bit longer than I expected, but there was a lot of material. Anybody has any questions at all? He was a very interesting man, obviously. He was a brilliant scientist. He tested everything. He didn't screw around, is what it was. If he saw something he didn't like or he did like, you heard about it. That's where it was. He wrote 20 books, like we said. He had the Cosmos series. His wife, who's still around, Anne, is a brilliant scientist herself. And it was fun doing this, by the way, to go through.
Yeah. I'm sorry to jump in. That was great.
Yeah.
You know, it really turned me on more about Carl Sagan and what he was all about. I had no idea that he started the National Normal Check.
Yep.
Here in Michigan, I've been part of Michigan Normal and an advocate for over 25 years.
There you go.
So yeah, that's just great, just something more for me to look into.
And if you want to, at any point in time, come up and look at my thing, maybe as we're leaving, just to see the amount of awards that he had. I mean, the guy was awarded 75 times or something, like some unconscious thing. Everybody awarded him, but he also started some controversy. Yes, sir.
If I'm not mistaken, one of our former club members, Dave Bailey, was either a graduate assistant with them,
Mhm.
studied with them.
Yep.
Carl made him go out and get pizza for him.
You bet.
But but I know that's where Dave got a lot of.
Yes, right.
From.
And I was fortunate. I met Carl Sagan in 1991. He said I had a conversation with him at the eclipse of 1991 with Owen Gingerich and him and Fred Aspanak. We're talking about. Sagan says to me, "You know more about astronomy than I do about financial planning." And I said, "No, sir, you know plenty about financial planning." He's a very interesting guy. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ken. Yeah, I mean, I was 20 years old when Cosmos debuted, and I learned about the Tunguska impact from Cosmos, and it kind of cracks me up that the asteroid lecture I've given to some classes, middle school science classes, they learned about Tunguska from me. So thanks, Carl. All right, so our next star party at Stargate Observatory is next week, Saturday, May 25th. Our next board meeting looks like we're going to have to reschedule that, so I'll be sending out an email on a new date for that. We're probably going to do it the week before. So afterwards, we meet for gastronomy after astronomy at the National Coney Island on Van Dyke, north of 12 miles. So join us there and at the bar. Yeah, at the bar. So with that, the meeting is done. Clear skies and safe travels, everyone. Good night. Stop sharing. Night, everyone.